the member of the hosting of one of the hosting companies of this event. I'd like to thank you for your participation, and I hope you are enjoying your visit at Lisbon, and also you are taking benefits from this conference. What I'm going to talk about is something that's usually hidden from the citizen, and that is the supporting PKI that is behind the ID card. I will go through the certification authorities that usually is at the core of the PKI. Also the registration authorities, which are, we can say, at the gate of the PKI. And also some services that are optional but increase the value of an eID and should be everywhere. Starting with the certification authority, some people might think that it's just a combination of software and hardware. But running a certification authority is much more than that. It's about having qualified human resources to run the CA. And this is very, very demanding, because you have to assure not also segregation of roles, but also redundancy in case of a major disaster. If you lose, for example, 2 members of a team, you should have 2 other members that can replace those 2 members lost. It's also about facilities, and this is also a very investment demanding requirement. You have to have very secure facilities. I don't know if you attended the presentation from the guy from the National Agency of Portugal. He went through the technical details of buildings to host a CA. It has several parameters of security and lots of security control, so it's a very demanding resource. It's also about having clear identified processes, and the processes should be clearly identified and ordered in a very known sequence in order to have predictable results. You can't operate a CA in ad hoc ways, because otherwise you could have unpredictable results. So everything has to be documented. It's also about handling several artifacts. It is not also not just the hardware. The hardware is usually an HSM, but the HSM has a lot of security artifacts. For example, activation tokens or activation cards that must be kept secure and off-site of those facilities, so that you can, in a major disaster, you can recover the CA rapidly in another site. For all this, you have to have a load of documents with control access to those documents. They have to be segregated to the human resources, to the different working groups that are composing the human resources. It's also about defining rules, the rules of access, the rules of entering into the facilities, the rules for operating. A CA is also usually subject to regular audits. It can be, well, it is mandatory to have an internal auditor, but the internal auditor is from our company, so it's not an independent body. What really assures and puts some trust or external trust on these services is to have a regular, puts some trust or external trust on these services, is to have a regular external audit from an independent body. And for all this, to fulfill all these requirements, you need knowledge, lots of knowledge. We are talking about several standards, several requirements, and you have knowledge. You have to have knowledge of all that stuff and the relations between the standards, and also experience, because when you start, you will have some problems from the start, and you evolve with those problems, and you get experience and also the knowledge. So this is a very demanding business to run, and it's also the core offer of Multicert. Multicert has a vast experience on running a CA for several years. Lots of experience with eID, and that's where our offer is focused. We also have the registration authority on the PKI. We consider it as the first fence to the PKI. It's really where the security starts. It's where the data from the citizens is collected. It is validated by the officers at the help desks. And it's where the registration, the input of the data is performed. It's also where the suspension and the revocation processes, which are very critical also, are handled. It can be where the eID can be delivered to the citizen, and it may also be where the citizen can call for support or request the support for any problem that arises. Well, the services increase the value of the eID. We can have the OCSP. It's an online service that works on a request response protocol. It gives us the status of in real time of a certificate, and the responses that are returned by an OCSP server are signed responses, so they can be used to increase the trust on digital signatures performed by an eID. Also, an OCSP can have optional access control mechanisms to control the ability to perform requests to the OCSP. Also, another important service is the timestamp authorities. They provide the proof of existence of a given data at a given time, and a very tiny time accuracy. It has to be under 100 milliseconds. It increases the value of eID signatures because it can be appended to the signature of contracts, and when you have these, you can dematerialize contracts, and you can have a boost on the electronification of processes. So this can increase the business side of establishing new business, new companies, new contracts. We also have the identity providers. That's something that will come up in the near term, in the really near term. It is usually used by relying parties, usually service providers, that want a service, or that want to outsource the service for getting authentication or authorization of an eID. It provides assertions. It provides assertions about an eID holder, confirming that the person that is presenting to the service provider is indeed the person that is claiming. It eases the use for the citizen, since it can be used for a single sign-on, and it also uses the complexity of the validation process of a certificate for the service providers. Service providers can outsource that complex system to an identity provider. They will also be used in the near future to increase the interoperability of different eIDs, as we have the opportunity to hear on this conference in several presentations. And at the very end, the increased value is the ease of use for eID holders, because they will have a common graphical interface for having their authentication. And finally, we have the directories. The directories can be understood as publication platforms where the certificates can be published in a hierarchical way. They can be seen as yellow pages, some kind of yellow pages. This can present some privacy concerns, even if we can restrict the searching capabilities. But it can be one of the database backends for identity providers. So an identity provider can base its database of all the certificates that are available in a directory, and can establish contracts with directory service providers. And that's